Whose story is it? The way I see it, there are two options. Option number one is this. It's our story. It's your story. Life, the world, everything in it, it revolves around, it centers around you. The Bible is all about you. Of course, there are other people involved. Jesus plays his part. There are other people who involve themselves in our lives. But when the Oscar gets handed out, when the trophy is finally awarded, it's you that gets the prize for lead actor. That's option number one. Option number two, and this is the right option, by the way, is that it's Jesus' story. That he's both the author and the director and has the starring role. Problem is, 9 times out of 10, we plumb for option 1 rather than option 2. You might have noticed it in your own life. You've probably noticed it in the lives of people around you. But 9 times out of 10, we make all manner of stories about us. That's just in our nature. That no matter who the story really is all about, somehow we figure out a way of manipulating it, of twisting it, of changing it so that we take center stage. And when we do that with the story of the Bible, when we do that with the story of God and us and the world, we tend to get stuck on forgiveness. We come as far as the cross, which is where we were last week, and we find it difficult to go any further because nothing further than that really makes sense. If the story of the Bible, if the story of the Word become flesh is really all about me, or is really all about you, then at last the problem that we have has been solved. I've got my achievement unlocked, and really all that's left to do is to wait for the prize at the end. But when we do that, when 9 times out of 10 we make it all about us, when we read the Bible like that, when we try to understand the whole story, we get really confused. It seems to be, if you read it, about so many other things, about so much more than just me and my forgiveness. Sometimes it can seem like it's about something completely different altogether. And we find that difficult to get our heads around. That makes it that when we read our Bible, it seems irrelevant. It seems confusing. It seems alien to us because it's not about me and my forgiveness. And let me reiterate, the reason that we think that when we come to our Bible isn't because it is irrelevant. It isn't even because it is confusing. It's because we've picked the wrong option. When we choose option number 1 as the defining narrative of everything, me at the center, of course things are going to get confusing. But when we see that the story of God and us and everything in between is really a story all about Jesus, well, then things start to fall into place. You know how the story starts, don't you? God created everything. That's what it says in the beginning. He created all things and he created it good. Or as John puts it, John, whose biography of Jesus we've been following along for the last couple of weeks, he, Jesus, created all things, and nothing exists that was not created by him. That creation, when you stop and you think about it, in the beginning wasn't broken. In fact, in his own words, God declared it very good. More than just being created and created well, it was created with a purpose. If you go back to the first pages of the Bible, the first couple of chapters in Genesis, you'll see that the purpose of all creation, and especially humanity, was that God's glory, his goodness, his reputation, his name, his fame, that they would fill this new thing called the cosmos. That humans were put in place, God's image bearers, to take him and to fill creation. And it's so important that when we're trying to understand this true story, the truest story that's ever been told, of how God made everything and what he's doing with that creation, it's so important that we start heading off in the right direction. Because if we're heading off in the wrong direction, i.e. we're making this story all about ourselves, then we'll get nowhere really fast. So when it comes to the rebellion, page 3 of the Bible, when humanity decides that it's not about God anymore, but it's about us, God's representatives going their own way, it isn't an interruption in our magnificent story. It's an interruption in his story. It's an interruption in his purposes. And so the light that comes and shines in the darkness, the life that comes to overtake death, the Saviour that is found in place of sin, these things that we encounter in Jesus are a new beginning and not the final chapter in the tale.